To batch or not to batch? That is the question. If you're a cafe owner of a busy cafe thinking about adding a matcha to your menu, then there's one very important decision you have to make. It's how you make the matcha. Do you batch it, or do you make it one by one based on order? Now, there's lots of implications to this decision, but one thing you have to really understand is whether or not batching reduces the quality of the matcha. Until you really understand this, you can't really make an informed decision. So in this video, we're going to do an experiment to see whether or not batching the matcha will actually reduce the quality of the matcha in comparison to if you make it one by one. Hi, I'm Yuki, I'm the founder of Tea Life, and here we break down Japanese tea so you can become a Japanese tea expert. If you're a cafe owner that's thinking about adding a matcha to your program, or if you already have a matcha program and if you want more confidence in your program, then we're here to help. You can sign up for our free newsletter from the comment below to keep updated with very useful information such as this video. In this experiment, we want to be extremely focused in terms of the outcome. What we want to do is we want to see the taste. We want to test whether the batched matcha tastes differently compared to the normally whisked matcha. We actually have 3 different types of batched matcha. I'll introduce them right now. This is batched matcha, which is first mixed with a whisk. So it's first whisked, the matcha and water is whisked together and then put into a bottle, and it's put in the refrigerator for 24 hours. So this is batch number 1. Batch number 2. This is the same thing, same formula, matcha and water, and put into a bottle, but it's mixed by shaking. So it doesn't even go through a whisk. It was just put into this bottle and was shook and then mixed in that way. And then it was put into the refrigerator for 24 hours. And then lastly, this bigger bottle, this is also whisked, but this was using hot water. So we took the matcha and then we took 80 degrees Celsius water, and then we used the whisk to mix it together and then put it in this bottle and then put it in the fridge for 24 hours. So all 3 batches have been sleeping in the refrigerator for 24 hours. The formulations are all the same. We're using the same matcha, 8 grams of matcha to 50 milliliters of water. The only difference is how we mix them and then the temperature of the water we used. Okay, so again, we're using a whisk, room temperature water. We're using a bottle to shake, room temperature water. And this one we're using a whisk with 80 degrees Celsius water. And we're going to take those 3 and we're going to compare against a normally whisked matcha, see how they taste differently after 24 hours of sitting in the refrigerator. Before we start this experiment, it's important to understand the mechanisms behind why the matcha taste degrades. And the reason for this is because of oxidation. Matcha is extremely vulnerable to oxidation. It oxidizes extremely fast. Even in powdered form, it actually oxidizes extremely fast. But by adding water, it speeds up the oxidation process, obviously. Now the question is, when you batch the matcha, are you able to maintain it in a stable way as much as possible to slow down the oxidation to a degree that the customers won't notice that much, and still be able to batch it for long enough that it helps the operations? So that's why it's really important to understand the limits of the batching process. And that's why we're testing this after 24 hours of batching, see how the taste differs. The matcha we'll be using today is Sen Matcha. It's an entry-level Usucha grade matcha. That's how I grade my matcha levels. I hope it's intuitive, but if it's not intuitive, you can ask me and I can give you the details of the grading system there. But it's something that works pretty well for lattes. So we'll be using that matcha. We'll be evaluating the taste by comparing them against Usucha matcha form. I think Usucha matcha is the best way to tell the differences of the quality of the taste, and you can kind of exploit the differences that way. So this is the one we just mixed right now. So we took this matcha powder of Sen matcha and then we used a risen whisk to whisk, well, not really whisk, we just mixed the matcha using room temperature water to make the initial paste. This is the batched matcha, which we whisked. This is the batch matcha, which we just shook. And this is the batched matcha that where we used the whisk, but also used 80 degrees Celsius water. And then at this point, it's really hard to tell if there's any differences. The one that we made with the whisk just now has a little bit more bubbles, so obviously it's a little bit more bubbly in texture, where the other four, it's really a solid liquid, if you will. It's almost like a koicha. Let's see if they smell different at all. There could be a slight refrigerator smell, if that makes sense. Despite the fact that our refrigerator only contains canned matcha. We don't have any food inside, but still there is a smell of the refrigerator, and it does transfer a little bit to the matcha. Not too noticeable, but that's something that you can tell from just sniffing. Before we actually go into the Usucha, let's see if there's a difference at this level, at this point in time already. So we're going to taste the differences at this very thick form. And that actually is the way you can expose the differences the most. So we'll do that first. Yeah, so this is the normal, the one that we just made. I'm going to take the whisked and batched matcha. No difference. There's no difference in taste. Yeah. Now I'll try the batched matcha that's just done by shaking. Yeah, no difference. I'll take the batch matcha that's made by whisking using hot water. They're very similar in taste, but if you really try to split hairs, you can tell that the matcha that's batched with hot water, or like 80 degrees water, there's more astringency. You can feel a little bit more astringency in the back of the tongue for this matcha compared to the ones that were whisked with or mixed with room temperature water. The ones that were mixed with room temperature water, it's a little bit more clear in terms of the aftertaste. It has less of the astringency in the back of the tongue. There's no difference between these two at this point in time. So this is the one that was made by shaking and one made by whisking. I think they're both very consistent, and it's hard to tell the difference there. And then these two are very close in terms of taste to the one that we just whisked. The only difference, and this is quite evident, is that the aromatic compounds, they don't lift. So the lift of the matcha smell that comes from what we just whisked, you don't get that from the batched matcha. So I would say that that's the true difference. In terms of taste, it's hard to tell at this point. So let's move on to the Usucha experiment. We'll make Usucha out of each of these bowls and see how they would differ in taste. Each of these bowls already have 2 grams of matcha each. So they're calculated with 2 grams of matcha. And they all have exactly 10 milliliters of water already included. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 80 degrees water, and then we're going to take 50 milliliters of water each, and then we're going to add it, and then we'll whisk. For the whisking, we'll try using a bamboo whisk. Let's see how. Okay, so we'll take these one by one and add water, and then start to whisk. This is the one with where we batched using a whisk, room temperature water. This is also the batched matcha. This is just from shaking. My wrist is starting to get tired because of the angle. It's so high. Allow me to do it here. Sorry, you can't see it. The last one is a batched matcha using 80 degrees water to batch. Oh, my wrist. So here's the 4 again. The first one is the one we just made to order. The second one is where we batched using a whisk. Third one is we batched by shaking. And fourth one is we batched using a whisk, but we used 80 degrees water. So we used hot water or warmer water for this one. Let's see if there are any differences in taste. We'll start off by drinking the made-to-order matcha that we just whisked. You like mas? Yeah. Okay. Very mild, very nicely whisked in a sense. It's a nice Usucha grade matcha. You still have the umami, you still have the flavors. Floral. Okay, just trying to imprint the taste so I can taste the difference. We're gonna go on to the batched matcha using the whisk. I don't think there's any difference at all. Even the aroma lift, because I whisked just now, you get the same. So no difference. It's hard to tell the difference. So good quality for the batch matcha using the whisk. I'll try the batch matcha using the just shaking. No difference. Nah, hard to tell. Yeah, no, these are relatively similar. I can't tell the difference. I won't be able to tell the difference. Let's try the batch matcha using 80 degrees water. Nope. Can't tell. All the same. Okay, let's summarize. First of all, there was no difference between batching and making it one by one, making it based on order. So I could see no taste difference between these two. I couldn't see any levels of astringency changing. Once you whisk it up, the levels of aroma felt the same as well. So actually, if it's within 24 hours at least, it seems like it still maintains the level of quality that the original matcha will provide. So that's a great news from a cafe operation perspective. There was no difference between batching by whisking or batching by shaking the bottle either. I was wondering whether there's like inconsistencies or more lumps. Now, by the way, when I made these batches, I didn't even whisk it. I didn't even sieve it. So I just put the matcha into the bottle and shook, or I whisked it, right? So I was wondering if there's inconsistencies in the powderware. Is there more like powdery particles in the texture? There was none of that for either of them, or at least they're the same for both of them. So there is no disadvantage in just shaking the bottle as compared to whisking each batch one by one. The third experiment was whether the higher temperature water will overcook the batching, and it actually didn't. It didn't really change the quality of the taste, at least again for 24 hours. I still would advise to use maybe room temperature water or cold water to create the batches, because what happens is the temperature difference, it can lead to a bursting of the bottle when you batch it. So I still think from an operational perspective, it's better to use room temperature water. You will still get the same quality. So there you have it. That's a good experiment. Hope it helps. I hope it is a reference point for many cafes. Again, we do support cafes and restaurants on their endeavors for providing quality matcha to their customers. So if you want useful information such as this video moving forward, please do subscribe, and also go down to the comments and click the link to access the free subscription to our newsletter as well. We'll be providing useful information moving forward. Thank you, and see you in the next video.